And it's precisely through this conflict between these two aspects of the mind that there are made what Reb Nachman calls hechalim, palaces, containers, some kind of vessel for the light of Ein Sof. And even though this is the case, it is still not known, it cannot be known, like the Zohar tells us that there's a passage in the Zohar, Parshas Noach, which Reb Nachman here is using as the basis for this whole section he's talking about now. It speaks about a parisa, it's a kind of screen, and this screen is holding back the chasing out of the thought so that the person does not reach an apprehension of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This parisa, this screen, says Rabbi Nachman, that is the element that brings order into the mind, the settled mind, the level of the keter, which is a screen that is stretched out between the created worlds and the emanator of those worlds. And out of the chasing of the mind, and it's hitting this screen, this limitation, out of this are made these vessels in the soul that are able partially to apprehend the light of Ein Sof. And these are 9 palaces that are not nehoirim, they're not lights, they're not ruchim, they're not nishmasim, they are not faculties of the soul as we normally know it. And the Zohar says, Leis man dekayma bahu, v'loi mistabkin, v'loi misyadin. There's nobody who can stay on this level permanently. It's impossible to attach yourself to that level all the time. What we are touching on here cannot be known. And Reb Nachman concludes, Dash ezet tachlis hayidiyah. This is the very ultimate goal of all knowledge. Ki tachlis hayidiyah deloi yeda. The real goal of all knowledge is to know that you do not know, that you've reached the very limits and you've come to that which is beyond you. And this is what Isaiah promises in his prophecy, the Hispia b'tachtochis nafshecha, God will satisfy your soul with these shining lights, these serene lights. For the ki oros elu heim hatzachtochis shem lemala me'aspiros ashrei misha zoicha sheyirdoy machshavte lahasig asogas elu. These lights that Reb Nachman is talking about, these are called the tzachtzachot, the supremely radiant, clear light, which are above these spheres. Happy is he who attains to such a level that his thought is chasing out to apprehend these levels of apprehension, even though it is not within the power of the human intellect to apprehend them, because it's impossible to attach yourself to these levels, they cannot be known. And these 9 palaces are formed out of this clash between the rational mind, the conscious mind, and the keter, the surrounding limiting level that seeks to keep the mind within bounds and within order. Now, for those of you following the text, that follows Reb Nachman's students, Reb Nachman's rephrasing of his teachings here, which I'm going to skip today to come to the very end of the Maimer, where Reb Nachman takes this whole introduction that he's given about the ascent during the Tefillah and relates it to the Agada in the Gemara about Rabbi Yeshua ben Hanania and the Sabbat about Tuna. There they've asked him, where's the middle of the world? He lifts up his finger and says, right here. They say, how do you know? And he says, if you want to know, bring ropes and measure it. Reb Nachman says this is what the elders of Athens were asking. They said to him, where is the center of the world? He lifts up his finger, says it's here. What were they asking him? They're asking him, how do you attain this light of Ein Sof? How do you get to it? That was the question. Rabbi Nachman is taking us out of history, out of Athens, to this fundamental question asked by the rational human mind. Here you are, you Hasidic guys, you're talking about apprehending the Ein Sof. How do you do it? Where is the center of the world that you say you're trying to get to? Where is the center of the world? How do you reach this light of Ein Sof, which is really the center of the whole universe, from which everything in the world draws its vitality and its influences? So Rabbi Yeshua lifts up his finger, says Reb Nachman, Zeh bechinas brochos. He was alluding to the whole concept of prayer and blessing. He was saying, you guys, you're too stuck in Asiya. Your finger is all the time in the pudding in the world of Asiya. I want you to lift it up and know that you have to understand that your hand has a different purpose. It's to receive God's blessings through raising your hand, raising Asiya up to God. And that's why he lifted up his hands. This is the concept of Aaron raising his hand to bless the people. Namely, it is through the blessings of the prayer service that we reach the level where the mind is actually striking against the limitations of the mind, and it's through this clash between the conscious mind and that which is beyond it, holding it back, that has formed this ability through these 9 palaces to apprehend the light of Ein Sof. So then they said to him, who could tell us that this is where the center of the world is? The lashon of the Gemara there is Amaru le mi yemar. Literally, they said to him, who could say this? In other words, who could tell you that you're right when you say the center of the world is here? But Nachman darshans the lashon of the Gemara mi yemar. Their answer to him, he says, who is this person who would be able to enter into the realm of evil, the palaces of exchange, where good is exchanged for bad and bad is... Who could do that? Who could get in there into the place of the klipot to elevate the holy Shekhinah from there on the level of Ketoret? How are you going to do this? All very well, you want to get on these high levels, you've got a big problem that confronts you, that your very soul in this world is actually sunk in the middle of all the clippers. How are you going to get that out to be able to start off the whole process of getting up to the supreme light? How are you going to do that? So this is the expression of the Gemara mi yemar, the Sabbath Beatuna, the Athenian sages are saying, how are you going to get the divine energy out of the Kalipos? And that is why they said mi yemar loshon temura. This is an expression that has a connotation of exchange, the switch. The literal meaning of a temura is when a person has a dedicated animal that he dedicated to be a sacrifice, and he has a whole unholy animal by the side, and he wants to switch the holiness from the dedicated animal onto the weekday, the whole animal. You're not allowed to do that. At the end of Sefer Devarim, the Torah says you're not allowed to do this temura. Kabbalistically, the whole concept of temura is the concept of the klipot exemplified by Lavan, who constantly switches everything around. He keeps on tricking Yaakov. Everything he says has a deeper meaning, which is a trick. It's all switches and exchanges. So who is going to be able to tackle that? And Rabbi Yeshua ben Hanani answers them, I to Ashley u'moishchu. Bring ropes and measure it. Literally he's saying, you want to know where the center of the universe is? Just measure it, and you'll find it's what I say. Now, of course, there's a much deeper meaning here, which Reb Nachman brings out, and he's going to say it out. Let's say it from the outside first. What is this ropes alluding to? Reb Nachman is going to tell us this alludes to Am Yisrael, and that at the end of the days, the Goyim are going to bring Am Yisrael out of their exile. And how is Am Yisrael alluded to by the concept of rope? Because Am Yisrael is Chevel Nachalosoi. We are the lot of God's inheritance. The whole world is thrown out HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we alone are faithful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He therefore calls us the lot of His inheritance. Well, in the days before sort of internet and modern methods of mapping, if you wanted to demarcate a field, you simply brought ropes and set them up on poles around the field and said, everything inside these ropes is this